Why Google shouldn't drive your SEO strategy. What is SEO really? We need to be clear. Great people are doing extraordinary work in the field of search engine optimization. When you think about it, it's amazing that Google's search product has become so important to business. The majority of an $80 billion industry is built around trying to decipher how to optimize businesses to comply with Google's complex and sophisticated algorithm. But we should recognize that most businesses attempting to decipher Google are not in the elite category. In fact, only 36% of small and medium-sized businesses even have a SEO strategy. So what should we do about SEO? Let's look at the future of search engines, the big picture. Before we can nudge search in the right direction, we need to get a good look at where we think Google thinks it's headed. We aren't talking about things like voice search and mobile optimization. We need to think bigger than that. Where does Google think our search is really headed in the long term? Here's what we know. Google is focusing more on search journeys and less on queries. Google doesn't just want to be a place you go for a quick answer. It knows searches have evolved beyond that. In fact, only 8% of Google searches are questions. Sure, people will still turn to Google to find a celebrity's age or how many ounces are in a cup, but Google wants to guide them to the next step and the next, so they return to Google again and again for guidance in their day-to-day life. Google has been transparent about this. So instead of just helping a searcher find out how old Harrison Ford is, Google wants to be there waiting with answers to the inevitable follow-up questions, such as what year Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom came out. When a searcher asks about ounces in a cup, Google will have the best chocolate chip cookie recipe ready to go. Google reorganized search results, particularly in mobile, to advance this goal. This isn't exactly new either. Google has offered related searches for years, but it is improving and will continue to improve the way it presents this information. Google also said it's moving away from query-based searches in favor of personalized feeds. Again, there are nefarious implications. These cards are often eerily relevant because Google is using your personal data and search history to compile them. That may give you the heebie-jeebies, but hey, it makes for a good search experience. Beyond this, Google's new tactics theoretically take ranking to another level of difficulty. As our friend Arnie Quinn once said, the best place to hide a dead body is on page 2 of Google search. The fight to the top spot just got way more difficult with personalized pages. Why? My search results for headphones are going to be different than yours because I'm on an iPhone in California, logged into my Google account and just looked for new microphones. It becomes overwhelming to think about how to strategize for so many variables. But we shouldn't just be talking about Google. Every day, Google's share of the search pie is encroached upon by other search engines that also are becoming more sophisticated and in some ways more diabolical. For example, when it comes to product searches, more users, about 46.7%, turn to Amazon before they go to Google. And as privacy becomes a more important issue, Apple Maps may give Google a run for its money in the search for where we're going. Remember, SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, not Google Optimization. If you work on SEO and only think about what Google wants, you're bound to be left in the dust. So what is the future of search drivers? That's us. In 2020, content sometimes moved faster than search. In March 2020, 57% of millennials surveyed that they got their news from social media sites more than any other source. Think carefully about what that means. It does not mean that more than half of millennials are cruising Facebook every morning, clicking on links to CNN and the Washington Post. Often the news is served directly to them and other social media users well before any news media site gets its hands on it. What does that mean for content and search? On the one hand, if we want to be cutting-edge thought leaders, we can't wait for Google to index the news. We must react to what we see on Reddit, Facebook, and Twitter, and right in front of us as we walk down the street, or gaze out of our window if you're still in lockdown. At the same time, we cannot be complicit in the spread of fake news. We as content creators need to balance both sides of the coin. This means resisting two knee-jerk reactions. One that tells us to post the most viral stuff as quickly as possible, and the other that tells us to remain silent on complex and difficult topics. Put simply, the best way to reach more people is to create the thought, and not try and be a fast follower of it. The future of search isn't an answer. What does all this mean for content marketers? If we're going to lead Google instead of following it, what are we supposed to be doing today? Well, put simply, we have to go beyond answering queries to provide solutions. If we are to lead Google, we must recognize that it's not about a battle for the best, longest, or even most keyword-rich answer to a frequently asked question. We must present connected content experiences that not only answer the questions, but present and enable the entire solution to why the question was asked. This means much more connection, integration, collaboration, and rethinking of the way we present content today. Content marketers must think less about siloed search pages and sections of optimized content, and do more to create connected content experiences. SEO becomes a long-term experiential development strategy, not a game of matching semantics. As content marketers, we are ultimately not trying to simply understand how people search for content and are served it via Google, but rather how people are finding and experiencing the solutions to challenges they may not even know they have.